everybody, and welcome to episode 1, season 2 of The Customer and the Service, 2013.
2013.
I'm Sean Petrowski, and with me, as always, is John Lemazny.
Hey, everybody.
We hope everybody had a great holiday season. Happy New Year. And I hope you had a... Where'd you go there? There you are.
I
hope
was
you had
in,
a
sorry,
happy holiday.
I'm plugging in. I had a great holiday. I went to Lake Placid for the first time in my life.
Oh, I've been there. Great place.
Yeah, it's fun. It's cold.
Did you go to the Olympic complex?
I did. That was one of our visits, was to the Olympic complex. It was
Did
nice.
you ride the bobsled?
Of course I did. No, I didn't.
My dad and I did.
Oh, really? I believe that.
It was pretty sweet. I'll have to tell you about that sometime.
All right, I'll have to tell you about the Chinese place we went to.
All right, cool. So, to kick things off with this season, John and I figured we'd kind of go into a little nothing crazy, nothing heavy, but a topic that is important nonetheless. We wanted to, we had a meeting today, which is something we normally don't do. We don't normally meet before our shows.
Yeah, it was a good meeting, too.
It was. And we were talking about what we wanted to discuss tonight, and we had a couple ideas, and then we both kind of accidentally honed in on this one topic of how there's places that we frequent where there are service providers there at these establishments that provide exemplary service. And we wanted to take a moment to kind of single out these people at these establishments that we frequent. And, as sort of like, this is the bar of what good customer service is about, and also an opportunity for people that live in our area to go and experience excellent service from these people.
Absolutely. So which of these two that we talked about do you want to talk about first, Sean?
Let's talk about our friend Joe at Winberry's.
Fantastic. And so you'll be able to expand on it a bit because you know Joe better. I don't go to Winberry's very often. Usually I go with you, actually. And one of the things I noted at our last visit, which was like last week, was how particular and attentive and almost jovial Joe is. And Joe's not like bouncing around or anything, but it seems almost as though he is. He's not energetic in the way that he moves. He's very calm, in fact, but he's energetic in the way that he wants to please you. And it's this sort of a thing that you can't exactly put your finger on, but you know that he's doing it right. It's the way in which he predicts the kinds of things you want to have along with your meal. It's the way that he pays attention to details in the changes in your order. And he even said, we were going around the table and everybody was like, I'll have this, I'll have that, I'll have that. And it came to me and he said, wow, everybody's easy today. And I said, well, we didn't get to me yet. And I'm usually kind of difficult because I'm mostly vegetarian, and so I'm always saying, give me the roast beef without the roast beef and shit like that. So, but he just took everything in stride, and you didn't have to remind him, and he just had a smile on his face. He's obviously happy doing what he's doing, and it showed.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I got to say. Like, I've eaten at a lot of restaurants, and I've actually been eating at Winberry's for, let's see, as long as I've been together with Crystal. So we're getting close to 9 years at eating at Winberry's.
Wow.
And Winberry's, I got to say, for those of you not familiar with what Winberry's is a local restaurant in Princeton. It was a single location, and it was purchased by a restaurant group a couple years ago, a small one, and other Winberry's locations have opened up across the country now.
What, really?
Yeah, if you go to the restaurant group's website, there's a Winberry's in Chicago now.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, so it's not a chain, but I guess it is a chain. But Winberry's in Princeton is the original, from what I understand.
And it's very specifically in Palmer Square, in case anybody's wondering where this place is in Princeton, because it's not right on Nassau. It's off of Palmer Square.
Below the J. Crew and across from the post office. And so anyway, the food at Winberry's is excellent. The pricing is very good, especially for being a Princeton restaurant. And they change the menu up pretty regularly. So there's certain favorites that stay behind, but then you get new stuff in on a regular basis, which is awesome. And they have a lunch club where you get a card and 5 punches gets you a free lunch, which is, I mean, the only other place I knew that did anything like that was Subway, and it used to take like 20 punches to get a free sub. So 5 punches at Winberry's for a free lunch, that's a great value right there.
Yeah, I have a collection of these cards, and I tend to use them. You know, there was a while when I was doing it at what's the Mexican place over in Mercer Mall?
Geez, I don't know actually. I'm not familiar with the Mexican place in Mercer Mall.
It was sort of like a Chi-Chi's, but it was
Chevy's.
What?
Chevy's.
What is it?
Chevy's.
Chevy's. Yeah. Chevy's.
They went bankrupt.
Oh, really? They're not around anymore?
No, the entire chain is underwater.
Well, anyway, it might have been this card system, but I don't know. But yeah, I had a card for them, and like I wouldn't have gone there except I wanted to get a punch on the card. It's a kind of a smart way to bring people back, you know. And we've talked a lot about electronic cards and the way that personalization can help people to come back. Because if it's easy for me to get my lunch by swiping my card, I mean, we're not there yet, but let's get there already. And Michael's Restaurant, which you and I have talked about a few times, has a card system too. I think it's a percentage off your 5th meal or whatever. But I probably have 3 of those cards in my wallet right now, and like 2 of them are full.
Yeah, so that's just another reason why Winberry's is an awesome place. So it wasn't until, I guess, when I started working at Princeton where I started to go there for lunch. And we quickly learned that the best place to sit for lunch is not to get seated like you normally would when you go to Winberry's. It's to go to the bar area and claim one of the high top tables or one of the booths. And you just go in, you sit down if they're open, and you get service from the bartender who's on call at that time. So I especially like it because the bartender who works the day shift, in my opinion, I feel like gets the shaft because there's not a lot of people that drink during the day. And so when you go in there and you sit there, you're helping the bartender get some tips for his shift, which I like is nice. Anyway, so one of the first guys to wait on us was this guy Joe, who's an older guy, and I've come to find out has been there since Winberry's opened in whatever, I don't know, probably 30 years ago. And like you said, very friendly guy, jovial, not in a forced way at all. He's very genuine, very real, and just like a type of guy you just would like say you would want to hang out with after a shift. You know what I mean? Just like a cool, regular dude. And we've been going there very frequently for the past 4 years, and he's learned our drink orders. Like he knows what we like to the point where like he'll even ask us if we need to see the menu, or he'll just tell us what the specials are because we often like to get the specials. He knows what we drink, and he keeps the drinks refilled at all times without even asking. And it's just like, if you think about it, it's just a bunch of little things that, if you look at them individually, aren't anything significant. But when you put them all together and you look at the total package, he's providing an experience that is absolutely the prime example of excellent customer service from someone who's part of a wait staff. And it just blows me away every time we have him.
I agree, and I haven't had him as a server very often, but every time I've had him, it's been a revelation about customer service in counter service or bar service or restaurant service. And another thing is like, you go in with four guys, and everybody's got credit cards, and I personally, I'll tell you something about John Lemasny here. I personally dread that time. I dread that time so much that very often I just offer to pay. Not even because I'm generous, but because I don't want to go through the pain of separating out the check and like that whole thing. So it's like, it's funny. I spend a lot of extra money because I'll buy meals because I don't want to have to split it up, or like, it's a weird thing. It's a weird personal thing that I have, but I think that other people probably have it too.
Well, I think it's rooted in a very real thing in that there's many restaurants where you go, and God forbid you ask to split it between two cards, or let's say you're super jerks and you're like, I have 8 cards and we need 10 on this one and 15 on the other one, and you get it super complicated. There's restaurants that won't split bills. They want one card. They want cash only. So there's a very legitimate fear there, John, and I definitely sympathize with where you're coming from, because there's a lot of places that have kind of boxed us into feeling that way in some regards.
I agree, and so at Winberry's, and I don't know if it's with every server, but certainly with Bob or Joe. Is it Bob or Joe?
It's Joe.
He remembers my name, I'm sure. Joe always splits the check and brings over the split checks every time. And like I said, I don't know if that's standard procedure for everybody, but certainly for your group, because he knows to expect that. And it's just a beautiful thing. It's almost like a free dessert or something. It's like such a beautiful little gift to just pay for my meal. It's such a neat, tidy way of saying thanks, and it's on top of all the other little neat, tidy ways that he treated us.
Well, I got to say, he was the first waiter that we experienced in that area, and we consistently had him for a long period of time. And then we got to meet some of the other bar staff over the past couple years, and they also split the check. And I've actually gone with other people, and I've had Joe as our waiter, and the other bartenders that we've had, we frequently know. And when they see me come in with other people, they'll split the check because they see me,
right? And
they just know that that's how I roll. And there's a group of people that I go with that are former colleagues of mine from the history department, and we get together like once every 2 months or something, and we always go to Winberry's, and it's something that they would never ask for, to have the check split, because they feel like you do.
Yeah.
Because when they come with me, it happens. They're like so appreciative of it. It's, and like I said, Joe does it consistently every time, and the other bar staff do it as well. You don't even have to ask. And, I don't know if other diners experience that, or it's just because they know me and that's how, they're used to serving me. But I got to say, it's an amazing concession that they make. It's amazing that it's like kind of like, when you know your bartender and he knows what your drink is, it's kind of the same way. Like they know how you want to have your lunch, and how you want to pay for it, which is unreal. And I got to say, like, the fact that you don't even have to ask makes it low stress for everybody, doesn't make it awkward, and it's just going to be right every time.
And, it's weird because it's only because of our podcast that we would even have the conversation about how great that is.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever discussed it amongst the people who benefit from it, but it's like that's such an interesting little thing about that visit that makes it worth going back. But aside from just that, there's so many other little things. The pleasure with which he does his job is such a joy. It's a joy to watch, but certainly a joy to be served by him.
Definitely. And, it's funny you should say that, like, have we had that discussion amongst our lunch group about the check thing? And I got to say, we got a heavy in the group when it comes to asking for the split check. So, like, if we go to, like, a Houlihan's or an Olive Garden or, like, wherever we go, P.F. Chang's, our colleague Matt, who'll dine with us very frequently. He'll always be the one, like clockwork. We'll place that order, or before we place the order, he'll just say, we need separate checks. And it's always like he's willing to go out on that limb and get the awkwardness out of the way.
Yeah.
And so it's great, and I appreciate that he does that, because, I'm usually the heavy in other social situations, but even when it comes to that, like asking to split a check 4 or 5 ways, that can be a tall order sometimes.
I agree. So there were 3, and right now the third example escapes me.
You talk about the second one, and then I'll bring up the third one.
Okay, great. So recently I was giving a talk at Princeton Public Library on WordPress. And during that talk, I met a gentleman by the name of Chuck McEnroe. And Chuck is a busy man. He's a busy man. He is currently part of the leadership for the Networking and More business group that meets on Thursday mornings in Princeton. And it's a business group meeting, sort of like a Chamber of Commerce, but much smaller scale. And the idea is to advertise internally, almost like an intranet, so that you can generate business within and generate business outside of the organization. And he has many jobs in regards to that group. And then he has his business, and then he has like side jobs. So anyway, he was getting into more web design, and he was ending up with a lot of clients who were using WordPress. And he wanted to learn more about customizing it and tweaking it to do exactly what he wanted. And so he saw that I was giving a talk on WordPress, came to meet me, and has really changed my consulting outlook, just because he's so successful. And he reminds me a little bit of the personality of my father, who was a salesman and who was a businessman and who carried a calculator around in his pocket and always seemed to be doing math on the back of a napkin, sort of a thing, which is not my personality at all, but I always appreciate and envy people like that. I like engineering minds, and Chuck has an engineering mind. So anyway, though, in regards to our conversation tonight, recently I was talking with him about a potential new client, which I don't think that I will mention because of the nature of this business relationship right now. But anyway, I went to the business to have a meeting with one of the owners or chefs. And while I was there, Chuck, who does not work there, as far as I know, had an apron on with the name of the business, and he provides credit card services. So whenever you swipe your card at a credit card station, that gets processed, and a fee gets pulled off for the processing, for the management of the processing. And Chuck sets that up. And at any rate, he was in this store, and he had an apron on, and he was selling like tuna fish, and bread and meat pies. And so anyway, somebody walked in, and they bought a couple chicken pot pies and brought them over to the counter, and he started up a conversation. And there was such joy in the way that he exchanged with that customer. He didn't have to ask their life story. He didn't have to show an interest in the relationship between the mother and the daughter who were there. He didn't have to talk about how great the product was. He didn't have to have a smile on his face. He didn't have to wipe down the counter while he was talking. He didn't have to do any of these things. But all of these things in a combined way showed how much passion he had not even necessarily for this job, because he was not working. He was just doing his thing. And I don't know if it's a volunteer thing or what, but he just in the conversation, he said, "Hey, on Facebook, everybody's talking about this tuna fish. We're trying to decide who likes which of these salads more, whether they like the tuna salad or the chicken salad. How about if you help us out and let us know?" And he got a sample of the tuna salad, and then he got a call while the mother was eating the tuna salad. And she sat there and ate it and waited patiently for Chuck to get off the phone. And in that short period of time, she was like, "Give me a pound of it." And it was like he was surprised that he had generated a sale, because he legitimately was not trying to sell. He was just like, "Have some of our great food, and I hope that you like it." And he just, there's something about the joy that he emanates that I want. And I want my customer service to be like that. I want people to, after I walk away from a consulting gig or from a instructional technology consult, to say, "He helped me. I want to call him again. I can't wait to work with him again." I want to be like Chuck. And I think everybody should be sort of like Chuck. And I know that it's difficult to have a smile on your face all the time at work. I know. But we are having a conversation about great customer service. Great customer service has to do with joy in what you're doing, because nobody wants to buy anything from somebody who is depressed. And not that it's necessarily about buying, but people don't want to interact with people who are depressed. And if you're working at McDonald's and you don't like the job that you have, then go get another effing job. I swear. I mean, it seems so easy. There has to be joy in it somewhere. If you're just doing it for a paycheck, I feel bad for you then. So that's Chuck.
To Chuck.
To Chuck. Cheers.
Speaking of you saying people not having joy in their job, you want to guess where I went yesterday and experienced a bunch of people not enjoying their jobs?
You went to, can you give me a hint? Can you give me the general type of business?
Major retailer.
Oh, Best Buy.
Wrong. Larger.
Target.
Larger.
Walmart.
Yes.
Oh no.
No special story. Just miserable cashiers all around.
And, look at their logo, or not their logo, but their
branding is
smiley
awful.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, that smiley face. It's like from 1963.
And there's some value to that, but not if it emphasizes how unhappy the people actually are.
I remember when they opened the Walmart when I lived in Voorhees, and they opened the Walmart. It was like a big deal because that was the first Walmart. You know what I mean? You didn't know what Walmart was because it was the first one. And I was a little kid, and they used to give those stickers out to the kids when they walked in the door, and you'd be genuinely excited about it. And then at some point, I don't remember when, we just were like, this is a stupid yellow smiley face sticker. Why do I care about this?
I don't know. I mean, it's better than nothing, but the thing about it, that what it emphasizes to me is that Chuck was the smiley face.
Chuck is a living and breathing smiley face, and which goes to show you get a real smile from Chuck, and the only smiles that you can get in Walmart are in sticker form.
It's sad. They're disposable.
Yes. Oh, it's such a beautiful analogy.
Yeah,
that Walmart sticker. If
there's something really nice about that Walmart sticker. It's disposable.
Yeah, but if they only knew the sad symbolism of that smiley sticker, I think we're onto something here.
I think so too. T-shirt 6. I think we're up to.
Maybe, yes. So to Joe and Chuck, people who love doing their jobs, do it with a smile, and Chuck, who doesn't even work at the place that you receive this service. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've had conversations with him about it because we interact in a meta way about business and passions and the things that we love about working. And he said that credit card processing is sort of what he does, but he's not selling credit card processing. He's selling Chuck.
Yeah,
And
you want to buy his service because of who he is.
I don't care what I'm doing with the guy. I want to do it.
Right.
Same with Joe.
That's right. So the third exemplar service, not one person, but two people, and that would be the brothers who own and operate the Tasty Sub Shop in Lawrenceville.
That's exactly right. Beautiful place.
Beautiful place, indeed. Right. So I don't know their names, sadly. I don't know their first names. I don't know their last names, but I know their faces. And almost every time I go in there, it's rare that I go in that place and I don't see the two of them behind that sub counter either taking my order and cutting the meat or cutting that bread, or maybe one of them's cutting the meat and the other one's in the back preparing a tray of subs. But I see them. I see those two brothers working side by side. And maybe they're not related by blood, but they are related by subs. They are sandwich brothers. Whether they are, like I said, I think they are actual brothers, but I could be wrong.
If I'm not mistaken, their names are Jim and Bob Tasty.
Really?
No.
But those guys behind the counter. Now, listen, I don't have a personal relationship with either of them. They say hello to me. I know they know my face, and they do greet me. I think a little bit more than they would greet just a normal customer. I haven't crossed that threshold with them, and that's probably partially my fault because I haven't pushed it. But I'm a regular customer there, a former Foursquare mayor of the Lawrenceville Tasty Sub Shop as well.
I also was a former Foursquare mayor of the Tasty Sub Shop.
And a part of me thinks that they were aware of that because I remember when I was mayor, I feel like I got a little extra. How do you do? But they run a tight ship over there. We've talked about the intricacies of making sandwiches and the things we like about what certain places do and the things that they do that we don't like. And there isn't anything about the Tasty Sub Shop sandwich making process or their customer service process that I have to say that I don't like. I love everything about it.
I love it too. I mean, if you want to talk about mechanization with a beautiful result, that place is about mechanization with a beautiful result. The subs are always precisely the same, and their numbering system and it is mechanical, but it is a beautiful kind of mechanical.
Yeah, see, I think we talked about this before. Subway tries to mechanize its process because not from a quality standpoint, but to save the company money, the franchisee. Excuse me, the franchise owner's money, so that there's more money in their pocket. So things are very mechanized at a Subway. It's the complete opposite at Tasty Sub Shop. That mechanization of their process yields high value to the customer, both from a service standpoint and a quality of the food standpoint. And I think that's really important to designate here because there's not many places I can think of where that goes on.
Where they shave right at the time of the sandwich, for example?
Exactly right.
Yeah, that slicer is going all day long.
It is, and you're getting the same amount of meat every time, the same amount of cheese. It's a great amount of it. You don't feel shortchanged, or you don't watch them make it and feel like, oh man, I wish they would put a little bit more ham on there or a little bit more cheese. I've never had that thought ever there. A Subway, I've had that thought 100 times.
See, I feel about Subway, I personally love Subway because from a nutritional standpoint, I know that when I go to Subway, I know exactly what the calories are because they are following the guidelines of those calories. But I can also make some strong guesses about the calories in a Tasty Sub Shop. It's just not published.
No. And I totally understand that, and that's I'm sure you're definitely not alone. You know what I mean? That there are definitely people that wish that and maybe they don't go to Tasty because of that nutritional information is not available. But we talked about this on a previous episode. Maybe that's definitely going to have to change, or maybe it won't, based upon legislation.
Yeah, well, they have two locations, right? They have one up in Bordentown or somewhere,
Edison.
Edison, and they have this one in Lawrenceville. As a matter of fact, the president visited the one in Edison.
That's right.
And the fact that they only have two locations, I believe, allows them to escape the legal requirement for nutritional publication.
Okay. Well, regardless, those two brothers that are there, and I'm pretty sure they are definitely the franchise owners as well, or maybe they are related to the owners in Edison. I'm not sure, but they are definitely the owner and operators of that Lawrenceville location, and they do a great job. They got a young crew in there, and sometimes I see a young crew, I get concerned about the quality of service I'm going to get, especially in food service.
You want to turn around and walk out when you see a young crew sometimes.
Sometimes, but not a Tasty Sub Shop.
Not a Tasty Sub Shop.
They do a hell of a job. They train those employees right. You get a great sandwich, and it gets cut right. It gets wrapped right. They bag things up, and that's another thing I love too. You get 2 subs and you get some drinks, maybe some chips. They're bagging it up. You get a brown bag, and they bag it like I wish grocery store baggers would bag. They do an excellent job bagging, making sure that those sandwiches are not getting crushed, the chips are not getting crushed, the drinks are bearing a brunt of the the weight. There's definitely a process that those employees learn about how to bag, and that's amazing.
You just triggered a memory for me. Last week I went to, I don't know how familiar you are with the Superfresh in Plainsboro.
Not familiar with it at all.
Well, Plainsboro Superfresh is closing.
Oh.
And it's sad because I was able to walk to it. It might take an hour for me to get there, but I was able to walk to it and come back and get groceries. I'm kind of sad about it going because there's not another close supermarket. There's a beautiful Asian market right down the street that I'll probably just switch to. But I decided instead to run to Stop and Shop, which is a little bit up on Route 1, north, right, towards North Brunswick. And I got some fruit. I went through the produce aisle, picked up a bunch of fruit, and brought it over to the register. And the register that I went to, I wish I remembered her name because I'd love to give her a shout out. She treated my tomatoes and my other produce with such care. And I don't know if this matters to anybody else, but it certainly matters to me. When you are working a register at a supermarket and somebody has taken the trouble to not crush their vegetables when they put them gently in their cart, and then you take it and you throw it to the end of the register, it pisses me off. And I don't want to have bruises on my beautiful fruit. I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like, it's not difficult. Just don't throw my food. And this woman, like, picked it up, gently placed it down. It was such a beautiful thing to watch, and I've never seen any other checker do it. And I just wanted to, you were talking about the same thing about the way that they pack. It's a skill. It's an incredible skill, and it's part of the skill set that you really need to have excellent customer service at the register.
I think it's funny that you should mention specifically packaging, and you highlighted vegetables and fruit right there. Crystal and I had an experience this weekend, and Crystal noticed this. I completely missed it, but this is hers. I'm going to give her credit on this one. We were at the Target in Toms River, New Jersey, because we were down there this weekend. And Crystal bought some fragile items from Target, as she tends to do. And she noticed that the Target in Toms River put it in the bag, just threw it in the bag. And when we got to the car, she said, "I don't like what they did with my fragile items." And I go, "Well, what's the matter?" She said, "They just threw them in the bag." And I go, "Yeah?" She says, "In Lawrenceville, they have paper and they wrap everything that's glass or fragile in the paper and then place it in the bag gently. So almost the same exact thing you're talking about. And here you go, same store. And I know you've never been to the Toms River Target, but the funny thing about the Toms River Target is the floor layout.
Of every Target now.
No, not every.
Well,
is a one-to-one recreation of the Lawrenceville.
Yeah, and most of the ones that I go to, the Princeton one, the Brunswick one, the West Windsor one, I mean.
Okay.
The one in Levittown, most of them have exactly the same floor layout. They did renovations to some of them. And I understand. I've had wildly different experiences from one Target to another, despite the fact that they're trying to present it as though it is an identical interface to the products.
That's I don't know where I'm going to go with that. But anyway, I'm glad to hear that you had a great experience with your produce and your vegetables, and that someone was looking out for him. And that's actually one of the reasons Crystal likes to do self-checkout, because it gives her an opportunity to handle all that stuff from beginning to end ourselves. She packs it in a bag, so that's one of the reasons we tend to favor the self-checkout aisle for that reason. So glad to hear you had a good experience with that.
I do like self-checkout too. I mean, the reason I usually don't do it at grocery aisle is because these people often know the fruit codes by heart, and they are often very good at other aspects of that process that take me a little bit longer. And you also have to rely on somebody who is managing 4 or more stations at a self-checkout, and sometimes they're not very attentive. So I love the idea of self-checkout, and love it when I just have a few items if I'm doing an express checkout, and everything is properly packaged or pre-packaged. But with the way that I shop now, usually it's much more custom, a lot of weights, a lot of codes and stuff like that, so I'm more likely to go to a manned checkout.
We could do a whole episode on self-checkout versus manned checkout.
We should do some testing. You know what else we should do? We should go to Lawrenceville Tasty Sub and introduce ourselves.
We should do that. It's about time. It's about time we did that.
It is, because they know me too. I mean, I used to go in there with my kids all the time, and it's one of those things where you never get around to it. There's also a sort of a sheen of there's a beautiful distance between you and the brothers. They are very mechanical. It's interesting to watch. It's almost like looking at a production at a more so than at a Subway, where there's more of an effort usually to say either nothing or to like engage you in conversation. And by nothing, I mean like the person could not be more miserable, and whatever. But I've never had that experience at Tasty Sub Lawrenceville. We ought to go and pay our respects.
We should. So to Joe at Winberry's, Chuck at the volunteer food establishment, and to the Tasty Brothers, we salute you.
We salute you.
Anything you'd like to mention before we close out our first episode, John?
Yeah, the one other thing that came to mind was I wanted to mention that Toms River is spelled without an apostrophe.
Just realizing that now, John.
No, I've known this for a while, but for anybody who is a listener who has not heard us talk about Toms River punctuation, I just wanted to be clear. Toms River does not have an apostrophe in it. It is not a river that belongs to Tom. It is Tom's.
Just like the health and beauty company.
Yeah, just like the health and beauty company. The green sort of what is a word that we could use to describe Tom's?
Eco-friendly.
Eco-friendly. They're eco-friendly and they're hypoallergenic, and I love that company actually.
Well, good to know, because I don't. But anyway, but yes, felt the same way. I just would like to take a moment to say that this weekend we went down to Seaside Heights to see the devastation there. I had an image in my mind of what to expect when I saw it, and it was far worse than even my mind saw. So if you have an opportunity to donate any money, any items, volunteer some time down there, whatever, these areas really still need a lot of help. It's a long road ahead for a lot of these shore communities. The silver lining in all this, though, I got to say, was I've grown up there pretty much my whole life, and I know this time of year during any other winter it's a ghost town. And I got to say, the businesses that were open were all packed. They were all doing serving lots of customers. People were there buying drinks, buying food. Playing the few arcade games that were there. The one arcade that's open was packed. So it's really great to see that the businesses that are opening are flourishing. It's exactly what that community needs to get back on its feet. And as the other areas of our shoreline come back online, I hope people go and visit them and pay their respects. But let's not forget what we're dealing with. It's a long road ahead, and I just wanted to take a second to remind everybody that that's still going on.
And there is a huge help community growing in Princeton for the shore communities in all of New Jersey that was affected by the storms. And I wanted to say that I was in Ocean City recently visiting a bed and breakfast. And we spent some time on the main street that runs through that part of the city on Asbury Avenue. And there was a lot of devastation throughout the city, but Asbury Avenue was coming back very strong. And I'm sure that they're doing even better now.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Till next week, John.
Thank you, Sean. As always, I'll talk to you real soon.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.